Hi everyone, I'm Anna, 28F, and I need some advice about a situation with my brother Mike, 32M. I've been really conflicted about what happened and need an outside perspective. This is going to be long because there's a lot of background needed to understand everything. Mike and I grew up in what looked like a perfect family from the outside, but the reality was very different. From the time I can remember, Mike was the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. If something broke in the house, I was blamed. If both of us got into trouble, I was the bad influence. When Mike got bad grades, it was because his teachers didn't understand his learning style. When I got anything less than an A, I was lazy and not trying hard enough. Our parents paid for Mike's college, car, and even his first apartment. Meanwhile, I started working at 16 at a local diner because I needed money for basic things like school supplies and clothes. They said it would build character, but they never made Mike work. He got a monthly allowance all through college while I worked 2 jobs to pay for my education. Despite everything, I tried to maintain a relationship with Mike as adults. I thought maybe once we grew up, things would be different. We managed to build a decent relationship after college, mainly because we both lived in the same city and our parents had moved to Florida. We would meet for coffee sometimes, and he seemed to have matured a bit. 3 years ago, Mike met Rosalie, 30F, at a charity event. She was different from the girls he usually dated. Rosalie was independent, ran her own event planning business, and didn't put up with any nonsense. I liked her immediately because she called Mike out when he tried to use his usual manipulation tactics. She made him a better person, and for the first time, I felt like I had the brother I always wanted. Rosalie moved to our city for work just before meeting Mike. Most of her family lived on the West Coast, so she didn't have a big support system here. We started spending more time together, and she became like the sister I never had. We would have weekly dinner nights where we'd cook together and talk about everything. I even helped her with some of her business events since I had experience in marketing. When Mike proposed to Rosalie last year, I was genuinely happy for them. Rosalie asked me to be her maid of honor since her best friend couldn't take on the role due to being pregnant with a high-risk pregnancy. I agreed because I wanted to help make their wedding special. Rosalie's business was doing really well, and she was handling most of the wedding expenses since Mike had recently started a new job. Everything seemed perfect until about 3 months ago. I was at their house helping Rosalie with wedding preparations. She was on a call with her florist in the home office while I worked on some spreadsheets in the living room. Mike had left his laptop open on the coffee table when he went to the gym. I wasn't trying to snoop, but a message notification popped up from someone named Emma with a heart emoji next to her name. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something felt off. The message preview showed Emma asking about their plans for the weekend. When I clicked on their chat history, my heart sank. Mike had been meeting his ex-girlfriend Emma regularly for the past 6 months. There were messages about hotel meetups, expensive dinners, and plans for trips together. Some messages even talked about their future together. I took photos of the messages with my phone because I knew Mike would delete everything if confronted. The next day, I met him for coffee and showed him the screenshots. Instead of showing any remorse, he turned it around on me. He started yelling in the coffee shop about how I was always jealous of him and trying to ruin his life. He said Emma was just a friend and I was making things up because I was bitter about being single. Before I could do anything else, Mike called our parents. He told them I was trying to break up his relationship with Rosalie because I was jealous of their happiness. He said I had hacked into his laptop and was making up lies about him. Just like when we were kids, our parents immediately took his side. They called me that night and demanded I apologize to Mike for trying to ruin his happiness. I knew I needed more evidence before approaching Rosalie. I used my savings to hire a private investigator. I felt terrible about it, but I couldn't let Rosalie marry someone who was cheating on her. The PI discovered something even worse than the affair. Mike had been stealing money from Rosalie's business account to fund his lifestyle with Emma. Rosalie had made him a co-signer on her business account 6 months ago because she trusted him completely and wanted him to help manage the finances while she focused on growing the business. The PI provided bank statements showing regular transfers from Rosalie's business account to Mike's personal account, which he then used to pay for hotels, expensive gifts for Emma, and even a down payment on a secret apartment. He had stolen almost $100,000 over 6 months. I also learned that Mike and Emma had been looking at houses together in another city. I spent weeks debating what to do with this information. I thought about telling Rosalie privately, but I knew Mike would find a way to manipulate the situation. He would probably convince her that I forged the documents out of jealousy. I had seen him talk his way out of serious situations before. After a lot of thought, I decided to expose everything at the wedding. I know it sounds cruel, but I wanted everyone to see who Mike really was. I couldn't let him steal more money from Rosalie or continue lying to everyone. The day before the wedding, I filed a police report about the stolen money and provided all the evidence to them. During the ceremony, just as they were about to say their vows, I stood up. I had prepared a presentation with all the evidence, bank statements, hotel receipts, photos of Mike and Emma together, and their messages planning their future together. Rosalie was devastated, but she held herself together incredibly well. The real shock came when the police walked in. They arrested Mike right there in his wedding suit in front of everyone. Our parents are absolutely furious with me. They say I've destroyed Mike's life and embarrassed the entire family. They're telling everyone who will listen that I'm a bitter, jealous sister who couldn't stand to see her brother happy. Even some of our relatives are saying I should have handled it privately instead of causing such a scene. Rosalie came to see me yesterday. She thanked me for stopping her from making the biggest mistake of her life, but I still feel conflicted. Was I wrong to handle it this way? Should I have told Rosalie privately instead of exposing Mike in front of everyone? I saved her from a huge mistake, but I also feel guilty about ruining the wedding day she spent months planning. Update 1: It's been 3 weeks since I exposed Mike at his wedding, and everything has been absolute chaos. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support helped me stay strong through what happened next. Mike was released on bail 2 days after his arrest. The first thing he did was show up at my apartment at 2 a.m., completely drunk. I was asleep when I heard loud banging on my door. When I checked my security camera, I saw Mike stumbling in the hallway, barely able to stand straight. He was wearing the same clothes he had on when he was released, all wrinkled and dirty. He started screaming at the top of his lungs about how I had ruined his life. He kept yelling that he would make me pay for what I did and that I was dead to him. The noise woke up my elderly neighbor Mrs. Peterson, who has heart problems. She got scared and called the police. Other neighbors started coming out to see what was happening, and Mike began telling them all kinds of lies about me. By the time police arrived, Mike had punched a hole in the wall next to my door and was threatening to break it down. They arrested him again for disturbing the peace and property damage. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. The police advised me to stay with a friend for a few days, but I refused to leave my apartment. I wasn't going to let Mike intimidate me into leaving my own home. Our parents showed up at my workplace the next day. Mom was crying, and Dad was furious. They caused such a scene that my boss had to ask them to leave. They couldn't understand why I wouldn't drop the charges against my poor brother. My mom kept saying family should stick together and that Mike just made a mistake. They then turned their attention to Rosalie. They went to her office and tried to convince her to drop the charges. They offered to reimburse all the stolen money if she would agree not to press charges. They even brought up how it would look bad for her business if people found out she had let her fiancé access her accounts. It was a thinly veiled threat, but Rosalie didn't back down. The investigation into the stolen money revealed even more than what my PI had found. Mike hadn't stolen just $100,000, the total amount was closer to $150,000. He had been moving money around between different accounts to hide the theft. Rosalie discovered that several of her suppliers hadn't been paid, even though Mike claimed he had handled those payments. Her business's reputation was at risk because of his actions. The biggest shock came when Emma reached out to me through Facebook. She wanted to meet and talk about everything. I was hesitant at first, but I agreed to meet her in a public place. What she told me made me realize just how manipulative Mike really was. Emma showed me years of messages between her and Mike. He had never really ended their relationship when he started dating Rosalie. He told Emma that his relationship with Rosalie was just for business purposes. He claimed that Rosalie was his business partner who needed a fake relationship to help her get her green card. He had promised Emma that once Rosalie got her citizenship, they would be together officially. The truth is, Rosalie is a U.S. citizen who was born and raised in California. Mike had created this elaborate lie to keep Emma on the hook while he played house with Rosalie. Emma had no idea about the wedding until she saw the photos I showed during the ceremony. She thought Mike was just attending a business event that day. But that wasn't even the worst part. Emma shared more screenshots of their conversations where Mike had been planning to leave the country with her using Rosalie's money. He had told Emma they would start a new life together in a country that didn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. They had already started looking at properties there. After my meeting with Emma, I got a call from Jessica, Mike's ex-girlfriend from college. She had heard about what happened through mutual friends and wanted to tell me her story. According to Jessica, Mike had done something similar to her years ago. He had stolen money from her trust fund and cheated on her with multiple women. When she confronted him, he gaslit her so badly that she started doubting her own sanity. She never reported it because Mike convinced her it was somehow her fault. Our extended family is divided over everything that's happened. Most of our cousins on Dad's side think I did the right thing by exposing Mike. They've shared stories about times they caught him lying or manipulating situations in the past, but everyone was too afraid to confront him because our parents always defended him. My Aunt Jane, Mom's sister, finally told me about incidents from Mike's teenage years that our parents had covered up. Apparently, he had stolen money from her purse during a family gathering when he was 17. When she tried to confront him, our parents paid her back and begged her not to say anything because it would ruin his future. There were other incidents too: stolen jewelry, forged checks, lies about where he was going. Our parents covered everything up. Rosalie is trying to rebuild her business reputation. The stolen money had put her in a difficult position. Some of her suppliers are threatening legal action because of unpaid invoices. She had to let go of 2 employees because she couldn't make payroll. She's planning to move back to California to be closer to her family and start fresh. Despite everything that's happened, we've become closer friends. We talk almost every day, and she's been incredibly strong through all of this. My parents still text me daily, alternating between guilt-tripping and threats. They say I've destroyed our family's reputation and that no one will ever trust me again. Dad threatened to cut me out of their will, which honestly doesn't bother me since they've already given Mike most of their money anyway. I've started looking for a new job in another city. Not because I'm running away, but because I think it's time for a fresh start. I don't regret exposing Mike, but the constant drama is exhausting. I'll update again if anything major happens, but for now, I'm focusing on moving forward with my life. Update 2: 2 months have passed since my last update, and things have taken several unexpected turns. I know many of you were asking about Mike's legal situation, so here's what happened. Mike pleaded guilty to the theft charges as part of a plea deal. The prosecutor initially wanted to push for a longer sentence, but Mike's lawyer managed to negotiate 18 months in prison plus full restitution to Rosalie. He has to pay back every penny he stole, with interest. The judge also ordered him to undergo financial counseling and banned him from holding any financial positions or having signature authority on business accounts for 5 years after his release. But here's where things get really interesting. During the court proceedings, some shocking information came to light about my parents' involvement in all of this. It turns out they knew about Mike's affair with Emma from the very beginning. Not only did they know, but they had been actively helping him hide it from Rosalie. The evidence came out when Emma testified about the apartment where she and Mike would meet. She mentioned that my parents had helped Mike rent it. My mom would even clean the apartment and stock the fridge before their meetups. When Rosalie called looking for Mike, my parents would cover for him, saying he was helping them with house repairs or taking care of some family emergency. The prosecutor showed text messages between Mike and our parents discussing his relationship with Emma. In one message, my mom told Mike to be more careful about his spending so Rosalie wouldn't notice the missing money. In another, my dad suggested ways to hide the bank transfers better. They even gave Mike money to buy Emma gifts so he wouldn't take as much from Rosalie's account. Their justification for all this was that they thought Mike would eventually get it out of his system and settle down with Rosalie. They claimed they were protecting both Mike and Rosalie by managing the situation. My mom actually said in court that she thought she was doing Rosalie a favor by helping Mike cheat discreetly instead of leaving her. This wasn't even the first time they had done something like this. During the investigation, Mike's ex-girlfriend Jessica came forward with more information. She revealed that during college, when Mike had stolen from her trust fund, my parents had known about that too. They paid her family back quietly and convinced them not to press charges. They told Jessica's parents that involving the police would ruin both kids' futures. The pattern went even further back. Remember my Aunt Jane who told me about Mike stealing from her purse? Well, she testified about other incidents our parents had covered up. When Mike was in high school, he stole and sold my cousin's laptop. My parents replaced it and told everyone it had just been misplaced. In his first year of college, he took money from his roommate's wallet. My parents paid the kid off to keep quiet. During his sentencing hearing, the judge called out my parents directly. He said their enabling behavior had contributed to Mike's crimes by teaching him he could avoid consequences for his actions. He suggested they seek family counseling, but of course, they refused, saying the judge was biased against them. Emma has been cooperating fully with the prosecutors. She provided evidence that Mike had been planning to leave the country with her using Rosalie's money. They had already booked tickets to a country without an extradition treaty with the US and had been in contact with a real estate agent there about buying property. Emma had no idea the money was stolen. Mike told her he had inherited it from a distant relative. The most surprising part was finding out that my parents had known about this escape plan too. They had helped Mike research countries where he couldn't be extradited and had even started transferring some of their own money to offshore accounts for him. The only reason the plan failed was because I exposed everything at the wedding before they could execute it. Rosalie's lawyers are now looking into whether they can include my parents in the civil lawsuit she's filing against Mike. Their text messages show they knew he was stealing from her business but did nothing to stop it. In fact, they actively helped him hide the theft. My parents still don't think they did anything wrong. They're telling everyone that they were just trying to protect their son and keep the family together. They've started a smear campaign against me and our extended family, claiming I betrayed the family by choosing Rosalie over my own brother. Some relatives have blocked me on social media after believing their lies. I've decided to go completely no contact with my parents. I blocked their numbers and emails last week. They tried to show up at my apartment again, but my building security didn't let them in. I'm done trying to understand or justify their behavior. They're as responsible for this mess as Mike is, and I want nothing to do with any of them anymore. Update 3. It's been 6 months since all this started, and I think this will be my final update. A lot has happened, and I want to share where things stand now. Mike is serving his sentence, and from what I've heard through family members, he's not doing well in prison. He tried to use his usual manipulation tactics with other inmates and guards, but it backfired badly. My cousin who works in law enforcement told me Mike had to be moved to protective custody after getting into fights. He still hasn't shown any real remorse for what he did to Rosalie. Instead, he writes letters to our parents blaming me for ruining his life. Rosalie's business has recovered surprisingly well since she moved back to California. She used her story to rebrand her company, focusing on helping other small business owners protect themselves from fraud. She's even started offering workshops about financial safety and partnership agreements. We still talk every week, and she's dating a financial advisor she met through her business network. She seems genuinely happy now. Emma reached out again with an interesting proposition. She's writing a book about financial fraud and wants to include Mike's case as a central example. The book will focus on how emotional manipulation and financial abuse often go hand in hand. She interviewed several of Mike's former girlfriends, including Jessica from college, and found a pattern of similar behavior going back years. Emma asked for my permission to include my role in exposing Mike, and I agreed. I think it's important for people to learn from this experience. My parents haven't given up trying to contact me. Last week, they left a long voicemail saying they want to make amends. They claim they've realized they made mistakes with Mike and want to rebuild our relationship. But in the same message, they asked if I would write a letter to the judge requesting a reduced sentence for Mike. Some things never change. The civil lawsuit Rosalie filed against Mike is moving forward, and her lawyers added my parents as defendants. The evidence of their involvement in hiding Mike's theft was too strong to ignore. They tried to get the case dismissed, claiming they were just being supportive parents, but the judge denied their motion. They're now trying to sell their vacation home to pay for legal fees. I moved to Seattle for a fresh start and a new job. The company I work for now actually found me because of this situation. One of their executives read about my story and was impressed by my integrity. I'm doing well in my new role, and for the first time in my life, I feel completely free from my family's drama. Some extended family members who initially sided with my parents have started reaching out to apologize. Apparently, my parents' behavior during the lawsuit opened their eyes to the truth. My Aunt Jane sends me regular updates about family happenings, but I prefer keeping my distance from most relatives. It's just easier that way. The whole experience taught me that sometimes doing the right thing means losing people you thought would always be in your life. I've had moments of doubt, especially during holidays or when I see happy family photos on social media. But then I remember how my parents enabled and encouraged Mike's behavior for years, hurting countless people in the process. I don't regret exposing Mike or cutting ties with my parents. Some family members still think I was too harsh, saying I should forgive them because they're family. But I've learned that real family doesn't help you steal from and cheat on your fiancé. Real family doesn't enable criminal behavior and then blame the person who exposed it. This will probably be my last update unless something major happens. I'm focusing on building my new life and leaving the past behind. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. Your comments and messages helped me stay strong when I doubted myself.